Welcome to Cybersecurity Unlocked, episode 6. I'm delighted to be joined by the happiest man in cybersecurity, my good friend Ravi Ramaiah. He is the executive director for Securonix for customer success for APJ.
Thank you, Evian.
How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for having me here.
Pleasure. It's great. Thank you so much for doing it. It's really good to see you. I haven't seen you now for, just trying to work it out. I think it's maybe like 2 years. I know we talk on the phone quite a lot, but when was the last time I actually saw you?
I suppose it's easily about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where the time has gone. And you have changed jobs.
Yes, I have. Very recently, I have joined Securonix as executive director, like you rightly mentioned, for the APJ region, managing customer success.
Okay.
So that's my new gig.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about that then. What's the actual...
Having spent about 3 years with managed security services, I thought it was time for me to move back into a product company and a company that's really exciting in terms of its product and the product capabilities. So Securonix is a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SIEM.
Okay,
and doing a lot of great work, and product is top-notch, and people are exciting. The company culture is startup-y in that sense, but really exciting organization to work for. So the choice was quite easy.
Okay, awesome. I guess that's quite a common route that a lot of people take. Once you've worked for the big companies like the McAfees and Microsoft, as you have, the companies that, as you start to progress, get sort of smaller and smaller, where you get a little bit more kind of influence, a bit more autonomy, a bigger voice. Is that the sort of experience that you're getting with Securonix?
Yeah, it's been very recent, so about a month or so. So I'm trying to learn about the organization, people, the customer landscape and such. So it's a process of discovery. So far, the company seems very cohesive. There's a lot of teamwork. People are very excited to come in to work daily and do their stuff, though remotely.
Yeah. And how does it feel going back into the sort of the product side? Is that kind of back to your roots?
Yeah, having spent about 12 years with McAfee earlier, a product company, it's kind of coming back home to a product company again. Of course, there are challenges with respect to how customers use your product, the challenges that they face while they're using your product, some product issues at times, but typically the way the product is utilized by the customer, the way it is set up and the way it is configured and things like that. So I'm here to help them harness the complete power of Securonix to facilitate our customers' business and security goals.
Well, I can think of nobody better for the job, I'm sure. How is, every time I meet up with you, you've always got like the biggest smile on your face. How do you always stay so happy and so upbeat?
In fact, when I meet people, they normally see that somebody in support should not be happy. And somebody in customer success is all with a grumpy face. But I must say that probably I'm the most optimistic person I know.
You are. I could attest to that.
I always believe that tomorrow can be better, and you always keep your end goals in mind to make a customer successful. Like we know, happy employees make happy customers. And if I'm not happy, I don't think I'm going to make my customers happy either.
Yeah, exactly.
So keep a positive outlook, and you'll always find a solution to a problem. And if you lose the hope, then you're going to be grumpy.
Yeah, precisely. Couldn't said it better myself. So how did you, let's sort of rewind the clock a little bit. How did you get started in this industry?
Purely by accident. I was a happy support manager, senior support manager with Microsoft in India, and doing about my job, and one of my guys quit. And I've always kept very good relationships with people that I reported to and the people that reported to me. And I asked him where did he go, and then he said he joined McAfee. I asked him, what is McAfee? That's how the journey started.
Right.
I did not know. I first asked him what coffee, and then he said, "Oh, it's McAfee." Then I went and did my research. It was my first clear security company related knowledge that I acquired. And he told me that, there is an opportunity for a manager position in his team. So his manager had left, so he referred me to go back and become his manager again.
Right.
So that's how this worked. I just went about. The mandate was to set up a support center from the scratch, build it out, and make it into a world-class support center. And it took about close to about 3 years by the time we really arrived at that goal.
Okay.
So purely by accident, but exciting journey.
So going into a manager role, what sort of technical skills did you have to sort of acquire if you've got a team underneath you that are doing the technical work, how sort of technically involved did you need to get?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important question, Evian, because any technical team that we manage, you will not earn their respect if you yourselves are not reasonably technical. You don't need to be more technical than the team that you manage or the people that you manage, but you definitely need to be technical enough to understand what they're talking, understand what customers are talking, get around the issues that we are dealing with. So there must be constant investment into learning. And if you don't do it, you will become obsolete and irrelevant and lose respect.
Yeah. Okay. And which areas were you kind of particularly interested in, and what sort of skills did you sort of acquire or certifications did you get? Yeah,
that needs to be a very strategic approach as we progress. In the beginning, when I was with Microsoft, I acquired MCSE, which was the trend at that point of time. Trying to understand, the system side, network side, and those kinds of things. But when I moved to security, I realized that is insufficient. And you need to keep talking to people in security, trying to understand the trends and align your knowledge acquisition in that line. So for me, it was initially doing my S+, which is basic security course, and then trying to understand what McAfee does, what areas they play in, endpoint, network, application, data security, and those kinds of things. Understand what those technologies, underlying technologies are. At that time, it was IPS, IDS, firewall, the biggest ones. So you learn about it. And then over a period of time in the recent past, every 3 years, I have acquired some kind of certification. Going back to school, I went to Nanyang Polytechnic for a year. That was after office hours, spending about 3 to 4 hours alternate days in a week over a period of a year. Stressful but rewarding. So subsequently there was a cloud security certification that I acquired with the Institute of Systems Sciences in National University of Singapore. And very recently, about a month back, I went back to ISS NUS again to do another course which is in security architecture.
Okay.
So I keep investing into myself into learning, and this has to be strategic, like I said, where the market is moving, what you need to do for your job.
Yeah. No, I know that about you, because every time I speak to you, you're always learning. I think, what was the one that you were? It's Splunk. Yeah. You did your Splunk.
I did a basic course on Splunk, but today, as you know, there are a number of resources to learn, like Udemy, there's Coursera, there's so many host of resources that you can actually go and learn. And companies themselves offer a lot of free courses if you want to learn. So I did learn about big data. Splunk has moved from big data to security SIEM space. We actually operate in the same space. Securonix works in the same space as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What's been the best one that you've done, or the one that's been most useful in so you're working in your career?
In terms of my learning?
Yeah.
I would say the cloud security certification, which I did about 3 years back, 2.5, 3 years back. probably has been one of the most useful things that I have learned, and very recently the security architecture course as well.
Yeah.
Because everything is moving to the cloud.
Yeah.
And if you do not understand the risks associated with cloud security and IoT security, OT security, it's going to be you're going to be knowledge deficient. So in terms of learning, my future learning would be more towards IoT security and OT security. And of course, to demonstrate that you know something, it's always important to have some certifications.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so you were with McAfee for 11 years?
About 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was it that attracted you to the MSSP space? Because that's an area that I'd be keen to sort of discuss with you.
Yeah. So if you need to be a well-rounded professional in security, you need to look at things in different perspectives, right? So I had a lot of time with a product company, and it was a natural choice for a person like myself to look at security from a different angle, take a different perspective. And managed security services made a lot of sense, because you've been in product, you move into service, you get a very, very close view of what customers want, how customers are using security. You don't sell and configure product, but you also actually partner with them to deliver those services as well, to make them use the product better, and give them the support. So that made me move into managed security services. I spent about 3 years between NTT and subsequently Centurylink. I would say a year in Centurylink gave me a lot more knowledge.
Really?
And indebted to Centurylink for helping me understand a lot of things about MSS in a very short period of time, because we also ended up building a new platform during the time that I was there. And of course, it was a teamwork, but learned a lot of things in 1 year with Centurylink. A great team, great company, great culture, great boss.
Great. Right, that's always important. How do you sort of assess the MSSP market now and how it's evolved, in the time that you spent in that space?
Yeah, MSS market has been evolving. A lot of companies now choose to outsource against making capex into security. It makes sense for them to outsource a lot of the security needs to companies which provide services. Particularly in this trend, we see large organizations having their own security infrastructure, sometimes having their own SOC, but also outsourcing a part of their security requirements to MSS. When you look at smaller companies like SMBs or mid-tier companies, at times they outsource 100% of their security services. So it could be a hybrid trend with large companies, but also increasingly we are seeing that SMBs have started appreciating the need for security, but do not have the wherewithal to invest into building their own SOC, building their own security teams, or incurring capex on investing into security products. So the easier way is to call in an MSSP and tell them that, look, these are all the assets that I have, IT assets that I have. I need somebody to monitor, I need somebody to manage it, and can you go ahead and do this?
Yeah.
So that trend is going to grow a lot, because companies are becoming more and more security aware, appreciating the importance of protecting their data and PII of their end customers, including startups as well, who are at huge risk if they don't cover their risk of IT. And then, it's very, very important to protect their intellectual property and customer and employee data.
Yeah. And of course, there's a distinct, there's a lack of talent as well. And building a SOC in-house is not as easy as it sounds. You've got to find the people, and especially trying to find people from overseas now is extra challenging with what's been going on with COVID. How do you think that the COVID has sort of affected the MSSP? Is there going to be sort of a shift in terms of the strategy for the big companies that are looking to outsource this?
I would think that the security focus for companies has dramatically shifted. Like they say, COVID has been the single greatest digital transformer for companies, right? So people have started working from home, like you and I, everybody else. Large number of people are operating from their homes, sometimes using unsecure Wi-Fi, a lot of times VPNing into their companies and carrying out their work. Advent of a lot of BYOD devices, bring your own devices, right? So there could be non-standard COE environment where people will be operating, and mixed mobile computing devices that are used to access company networks to carry out their work. So it increases the threat surface for companies dramatically, and companies have to gear up to deal with these new ways of connecting employees connecting to their networks, and making sure every connection that happens with the company is legitimate and authenticated properly, and they protect their especially privileged users when they come in and work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be? I mean, is it a case of anybody that's in the industry, they need to get people back in the office as soon as possible, or is this just the kind of the new norm, and we're going to have to, increase the defenses and working from home long term? Is that realistic? Do you think for?
Yeah, I believe. I mean, this is the way I personally see it. We are going to see an advent of smart spaces, smart workspaces, where you may probably not work 100% from home, but it is also important because we human beings are social beings, right? So we would like to interact with people. However, it's not going to be always through a Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts or any of those collaboration video conferencing facilities, but people would also like to meet at times, right? So with the risk of COVID spread going down slightly, and possibly a vaccine that might probably be coming up in the next maybe a few months' time, the hanging risk that is there for a secondary wave of infection or potentially another kind of virus will always be on the back of people's mind. So I don't think it's going to be 100% back to office. I believe companies are going to cut down on capex on acquiring office spaces. They will avoid long rentals with real estate developers and property owners, and opt for more co-share office spaces. So when you have collaboration work that needs to be done, or let's say you want to meet a customer, then you book a space, you go in there. I would think that it's a coffee shop on steroids, where you will go there both for entertainment and for work, and there would be possibly confined spaces as well, or reserved spaces, meeting rooms, where you will get services of a coffee shop,
kind of like WeWork.
Yeah, something like a WeWork. I think will become more relevant. As you can see, SoftBank has upped their investment on WeWork, while the WeWork shares have slumped. Very recently, Mr. Son invested a lot more into WeWork.
Well, they stopped their funding, didn't they?
Very recently, they did another round of investment.
They've gone back in, yeah.
I would believe that WeWork and similar concepts will actually catch up quite a bit.
Yeah, it is an interesting concept, isn't it? It seems that, and I was really surprised at how many WeWorks are in Singapore now. I think there's about maybe 15 offices.
Around about, yeah.
Yeah, we're in the WeWork as well. It's a great concept. I do really enjoy it. I do miss the kind of the buzz of like being in a busy office, with 30 or 40 people all jammed together, and it's a sales environment. So I guess I do miss that a little bit. But now that I guess I'm a little bit older, a bit more mature, the working environment has changed. Considerably. What do you think what do you see as the trends? What do you think is in growth within cyber? What is becoming more obsolete or commoditized?
Talking about things that are commoditized and probably not obsolete, but commoditized is endpoint. The traditional AV is, you cannot get rid of it, but it's not sufficient anymore. right? And your traditional network security, like IPS, IDS, firewall, you can't get rid of it, but you need to up the ante and then move into the next era. So the trends that I see with cybersecurity is moving more towards IoT, OT. With the advent of 5G, people are going to go more online to carry out their businesses. They're going to be putting a lot of data out on the cloud. So you need to be focused on cloud security, IoT security. You have autonomous driving vehicles that are coming in, contactless shopping that is happening. There is a lot of collaboration that's happening online. People are no longer storing their pictures on their phones, but they are all on the cloud. And companies are putting a lot of information on cloud, though compartmentalized and containerized and siloed within the cloud itself is becoming a trend. Furthermore, I also see data localization of cloud as well as one of the security trends, because increasingly organizations and governments who also have gotten into cloud presence as well need their data to be on the cloud but localized in their country. Because they do not want their data to be out there in some data center that's thousands of miles away and prone to risks as well, or to local regulatory requirements as well. So various governments are imposing regulatory requirements that data should be localized even when you go to cloud. So that is going to be a huge trend, and securing that data becomes very important. Yet another one I see as a huge trend is state-sponsored threat actors who are attacking not only institutions and companies but also governments. We have seen recent instances of certain state actors with huge amount of resources at their disposal actually going into tampering with elections that we have seen. We have seen a lot of state actors getting into stealing intellectual property from pharmaceutical companies, from finance companies, causing reputational and financial and intellectual property damage. So that is something that is the trend which needs to be looked at very seriously and protected. Yeah. So these are the things that I see are very, very key.
Who are they? Who are the biggest threats? Do you see? Or is that an obvious question?
It is an obvious question. To name a particular country is a bit of a risk, because I always believe that if you were to name somebody for responsibility towards something, you should have concrete proof, right? In the absence of which, I think it is only right that you allude to it, but you don't name it. And we have seen very recently what has happened with various countries as well, with India taking the lead sometime in July, where they banned about 59 applications coming out of a particular country, which included TikTok and WeChat and a number of applications, followed by very closely by the US, which in September they're going to be banning a number of applications as well. While we look at that, a lot of countries as well have banned certain companies originating of a certain rogue nations, as they are called, from participating in bidding for 5G and preventing them from participating in critical projects as well. Not just 5G, but a lot of critical projects, whether it be technology or defense. They are being very careful, because they do not want any more theft of their intellectual property. They do not want any more tampering with their affairs of a sovereign state. So it is very, very important that we follow these trends.
Yeah. Do you think many other countries are going to follow suit? So India, US?
Yeah.
Is there any?
Yeah, I think it is. Australia did very recently. You saw because of the trade war that they had, they immediately saw the way China retaliated against them.
Yeah.
In fact, this is public information, so we can obviously talk about it. The PM of Australia, Scott Morrison, actually named China as one of the major players who started launching attacks on Australian infrastructure. So what becomes very important as one of the things that is a trend in the future is that the size of the nation, size of your economy, or size of your defense does not matter anymore, because it's all, the world is going to a cyber warfare.
Yeah, do you think so?
It is.
Are we not in? Do you think we're in that now, or is it? It does feel like there's a lot of kind of retaliation sort of on both sides.
Yeah,
and that kind of leads me to believe that we're already kind of in it. But
yeah, true.
It's escalating.
It is escalating. But I think that today they are playing just one level below the war. Like, whether it is tampering with elections or affecting some critical infrastructure or stealing intellectual property, those things are actually just one level below actual war. When the real warfare, cyber warfare happens, I actually abhor the thought, but if it were to happen, you will see they will be jamming up your airports, they will be jamming your traffic, they'll be shutting down your power generation and distribution, they will affect critical water supply. Now that's going to be cyber warfare. I don't think any country has escalated their attacking to that level yet. But if we were to go into a war kind of a situation, this is what I was saying, that you don't need to militarily and physically attack any country. You can be a very small country with a super good brain power, trained extremely well in cyber attack techniques, and launch an attack on another country. And your size does not matter anymore. It's the capabilities that you have and the resources at your disposal to launch a cyber attack on another country.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a scary thought, but
it is
reality.
It is. I know it is pretty scary. Where are you gonna go if this all sort of kicks off, or are we gonna stay? I guess Singapore is pretty much a good place to stay.
Yeah, I think the best strategy to have is to have friends, right? And I think Singapore is actually great in its way. They do not antagonize anybody. They don't have any reason to do so as well. They work well with every country. I think countries should actually take an example of how Singapore does, right? The Singapore way, as it is called, and make sure that you do not give reasons for people to attack you.
Yeah.
If there is no reason, then there is no way that people are going to attack. But it's a very difficult proposition, especially when it comes to very big countries like India and China and US or Australia. There could be tensions that might escalate, but ideally they should all be dealt with in a diplomatic way than to leave it into a war situation, which is risky.
Yeah, exactly. How long have you been in Singapore now?
About 10 years.
10 years, yeah. No plans to return home?
I would call Singapore home now.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. So return home is basically Singapore.
You're here.
Yeah.
You're here.
Yeah. My children would definitely not want to think of any other country as home.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming down. It's great to see you, as always. Have you got any more? Are you doing any more training? Any more?
Yeah.
Sets? What's next for you?
The next for me would be to focus on OT, operations technology, and get to learn more. Supply chain security becomes very important. So I'll be focusing my studies towards IoT, OT, supply chain security as my next learning ventures.
Sounds good. Awesome. All right. Well, best of luck with it. Best of luck for the rest of this year as well, and in the new job.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ravi. Thank you. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.